Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh, and in this series we're discovering the lore, backstory and characters of Overwatch's heroes, including more detail through their in-game voice lines and interactions. Before any map starts and during the game on various triggers, Overwatch heroes chat with and react to each other in some funny in-game voice interactions. In this video we're looking at Moira's story through her interactions with fellow heroes and the world around her. An unquestionably brilliant yet highly controversial geneticist, rejected by the established scientific community for her findings and research, Moira O'Dearan has always walked on the edge between morality, ethics, and the advancement of science. That journey has seen her be part of Blackwatch, Overwatch's covert division under Gabriel Reyes, who would later be known as Reaper, voyage to the Middle East to take up a scientific position in a city without scientific ethical restraints, and have connections with Talon. Now, just before we dive into voice lines and interactions, I usually do a whole section on hero lore at this part of the video. Moira's has been made separately, so it's linked in the description and comments if you want to go and see it after you've watched this. I've done a series of these for all Overwatch heroes, including their lore as well, so check out the playlist in the description if you'd like to see more as well. Okay, on with the show. In her voice lines, humour and wisdom, Moira's motivations are pretty clear. She's very driven, highly focused, if not obsessed with her goals.
I will allow none to stand in the way of progress. We must all make sacrifices in the name of science. The true struggle is for the superiority of ideas.
Moira truly believes that science is bringing benefit to the world though, and it's not as though it seems to be money related or power related for her. She just wants knowledge for knowledge's own reward.
Science saves the day. Again. Science will reveal the truth. Knowledge is its own reward.
Outside of the scientific or research side of things, she does have this little chip on her shoulder, it seems. I mean, she was rejected by her peers, by the establishment in terms of scientific research in the community.
Those who wrong me pay in the end.
Now, Moira comes across as a little haughty. Her obvious intelligence and choice use of language shines through in everything that she says in her lines. She's very well spoken, goes into long form a lot in quite a lyrical way as well. She'll use a fair few words in a more relaxed or confident style than the urgency and brevity of most other heroes. Take these lines, for example, for defense time running out when a map's about to end. Everyone else is really urgent, but for Moira, everything is just unravelling as she believes, the way she describes it.
Their inevitable defeat is becoming reality. Slowly they realize that failure is all that awaits them. That we should fail in stopping the payload has no reasonable explanation.
Moira does love a good explanation for things, as any scientist would. She's very confident in her own abilities and discusses them as fact almost without question. I love her on-fire line. It's both an example of calling out her ability and success, but she can't do it without backing it up with proof.
I'm on fire! All evidence supports this claim. I'm on fire! You'd be wise to stay out of my sight. My keen analytical mind detects a pattern forming.
And if she's upvoted a certain amount of times at the end of the game, she's got some great lines too.
It was only to be expected. Pure class.
However confident Moira is in her own abilities, she's not so arrogant as to believe she is infallible. She accepts that she makes mistakes and works on correcting and improving from them.
Perhaps a new methodology is required. When faced with a setback, we must challenge our assumptions.
And I love these lines. She's got a few that makes it sound like when she's focused on research, she doesn't want to be interrupted or doesn't really want a long conversation.
I'm working. I heard you. Are you finished?
Now, as for humour, Moira's not full of outright gags, but she's got this intelligent, dry sense of humour to me that just underpins all of her lines. I love this one and have no idea what triggers it, so let me know if you hear it in game. Moira has just released as I make this video, so some of these might come up in future. Maybe it's if you start and you don't have enough supports on your team?
No support. Story of my life.
And this line, again, I'm not sure if this is part of a response to an interaction, but I love the flair she puts into it.
Always with a touch of the dramatic.
Moira's got a fair few sharp-witted burns, and a lot of them are to do with science, in terms of people just being experimented on and similar. She does say a lot that people take part in her research, whether they're on her team or whether she's actually attacking and damaging people on the other team as well. So here's some of my choice Moira burns for you.
Guinea pigs. An evolutionary dead end. Evolution works quickly today. Stupidity is not a right. The state of you.
And the classic we saw from the Unveiled trailer, Moira killing Hanzo.
Simple geometry.
As a final insult she has, I like the thought that Moira's actually more scared of people having a lack of knowledge or understanding. Or maybe this is just an insult to people that she deems a bit more ignorant than herself.
Your ignorance frightens me.
Okay, time for a brief bit of learning Gaelic with Moira. Now, she has a lot of Gaelic lines. A lot of people love it when characters have lines from their own home country's languages. I can't get all of these translated right now, so I may actually do a separate video on these. There are so many, but here are a few for the time being.
Toig tippa den yart.
That means your strength is failing.
Ligdum karulat.
That's let me help you.
Gurav mahagot.
That's thank you.
Eishka.
That's just easy.
Shin shin.
And that one just means that's that.
Sloan.
That's just goodbye.
Gale de mahul.
And that, of course, is our ultimate coalescence, which is surrender to my will. Now, I do love this voice work. Moira's voice actor is Genevieve O'Reilly. Now, you might know her from her work recently as Mon Mothma. She was the character in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, as well as in Rogue One. So, if you're a big Star Wars fan like myself, then you might also see her in Star Wars Rebels, the animated series too. Really, really cool that a couple of worlds are crossing over there. Okay, time for the Moira reference game. She has some fun references, so I'll leave a few seconds after each. You can have a guess and try and work them out.
I will rebuild you.
I think this has to be a reference to the catchphrase of the $6 Million Man. It used to be an American sci-fi and TV series about a former astronaut, Steve Austin, who has superhuman strength due to bionic implants and therefore is employed as a secret agent by a fictional US government agency. The show's opening catchphrase was, "We can rebuild him, we have the technology." Okay, next up.
Better living through science.
Now, I think this is a play on better living through chemistry. This was a variant of a DuPont, a chemical company, advertising slogan that was common from 1935 to 1982 on various products they made. DuPont were trying to change viewers' opinions about the role of big business and the benefits it could provide to society. So maybe a little nod to Moira, kind of wanting people to understand that science can bring a bigger and better future and not to be scared of it, perhaps. Okay, one for you book readers and horror fans now. A couple of lines here.
We learn from failure, not from success. Despair has its own calms.
You may recognise those from none other than Bram Stoker's Dracula. Now, the first one is said by Van Helsing, talking about experimenting. The second one is actually by Harker. In the story, he's growing increasingly frightened and disturbed by the behaviour of the Count. It's kind of a way of saying that second line, that the human mind has a way of finding peace or some tranquility no matter how bad things get. Finally, Moira has a few little colloquial phrases like this one that Irish people seem to have appreciated in the comments. Not stereotypical, just things that people kind of say.
You're a chancer.
Okay, time for Moira and her interactions with the characters of Overwatch. She has, of course, been a part of Blackwatch, Overwatch's covert ops division under Reyes, and has probably had the opportunity to have contact with many of the Overwatch cast. She has a few complete interactions with McCree, Widowmaker and Zenyatta, some comment lines on Mercy and Ana, and a few that sound like incomplete interactions waiting for the other half, the other voice actor, to be able to record the lines. I'll be sure to come back and update with any new lines with a video in future. McCree and Moira clearly worked together or knew of each other in Blackwatch, so it's interesting that McCree wasn't sure about Moira from the off, and I wonder why this was and what she could have done before that led McCree to be so cautious. What do you reckon?
Always thought hiring you was a mistake.
The best mistake one could ever make.
Okay, on to Moira and Widowmaker. Now, I need to make a little timeline lore point first. We can only deduce right now that Moira joined Blackwatch and therefore Overwatch towards the end of the 2 decades of peace that Overwatch brought to the world, this 20-year span. We also know that Amélie Lacroix was kidnapped by Talon before she re-emerged as Widowmaker, and that was also towards the end of Overwatch's existence. Ana's comic chanting Ana's disappearance and her realisation that Lacroix had become Widowmaker. However, before headcanon goes flying away, we don't know when Moira got involved with Talon. She may or may not have had anything to do with Lacroix at the point at which she was kidnapped. Moira might have still been working for Blackwatch, had no idea about Talon whatsoever. So we cannot say either way whether Moira had anything to do with Lacroix becoming Widowmaker, Widowmaker becoming the way that she is. But having said that, this interaction between the two is still interesting.
How are you feeling, Lacroix?
I don't feel. That's the point, isn't it?
Now, we do know that Widowmaker may feel a little something perhaps when she sighs for Gerard as a voice line, so it'll be fascinating to see what happens with any backstory around these two and how they're involved and when they first got to know each other. Now, Moira has views on how the UK government treats Omnics, more on that later, so as an inquisitive scientist interested in how life works, she clearly finds Omnic's self-awareness a fascinating topic. In their interaction, Moira clearly sees Zenyatta's existence as a function and not perhaps a life, and Zenyatta very gently bats that aside by pointing out that he believes he exists. I love the little subtlety there.
I must know how your technology functions.
Existence is mysterious, isn't it?
As for Moira and Mercy from their various sprays, Blizzard is already pointing out the similarities and opposites between them, and in BlizzCon 2017 panels, it's been shared that Moira may have pinched a bit of Mercy tech in some ways or innovated on it. The two don't have a direct interaction right now in game at Moira's release, but Moira does have this comment, which could be a kill line or part of an interaction in future.
Our guardian angel.
I can imagine Anna keeping a beady eye on Moira's work, given how she reacted to McCree being in London in the events of the Uprising comic. If she knew of Moira's work, that is. Now, I love this line that Moira uses when she kills, I think, Anna.
Harridan.
A harridan's a word for an unpleasant woman, especially an older one, who is often angry and often tells other people what to do. So clearly that sees how Moira views Anna in one juicy little word. I love it. Now finally, Moira has a few more lines I've not found pairs of as of making this video. She might have an interaction with Sombra. She refers to someone as being a flawed creation, praises someone for their contributions to science, and tells someone not to stand in the way of the orb. So some of these sound like parts of interactions to me. I'm going to play them here. What do you think?
Sombra, is that you? Such a flawed creation. Your contributions to the furtherance of science are to be commended. Perhaps next time you should not stand in the way of the orb.
Finally, the world of Overwatch. Well, Moira's both been working with Blackwatch, potentially within Overwatch facilities. She's now Minister of Genetics in Oasis, Iraq, and has also been working with Talon in some form or another. We've seen her in Venice as well in the Masquerade comic, so she's fairly well travelled around the Overwatch world and has a few interactions with different maps. Oasis is a shining jewel of scientific advancement and achievement. However, as science and research here are practiced in a more unrestrained form compared to legal and ethical discussions and debates elsewhere in the Overwatch world, the highly advanced city in Iraq is by no means free from controversy. After Overwatch's and Blackwatch's fall, Moira was invited by the ministers, the leading scientists who run Oasis, to become their Minister of Genetics. Being able to work in an environment free from restraint or ethical consideration would clearly appeal to Moira, and she has a few lines on how she sees Oasis, including it being as her home. She sounds like a bit of a wanderer.
Well, this is now my home, as much as any other. If only the world could see the wonders that science has built.
Now, Kings Row and the UK have had a long and troubled relationship with Omnics. Omnic labour was used to construct a large part of the city, and since the Kings Row uprising, when the Null Sector group took over and caused death and destruction, Omnic rights have been treated very badly. Interesting that Moira actually, a bit like Doomfist, has the opinion that the government in the UK has outdated views towards Omnics, and is perhaps not going about things in the right way. Like in her interaction with Zenyatta, she probably sees Omnics as fascinating scientifically, albeit not in her primary field.
The government here has such a medieval view towards Omnics.
Finally, on the Horizon lunar colony, Moira has a few lines when looking through the telescope, like all other Overwatch characters. Now, Moira's lines are a reference in themselves. She has a few reflections, fittingly, from the famous playwright, poet, Irishman and Dubliner Oscar Wilde, and Moira's of course from Dublin and Ireland too.
A dreamer is one who can only find his way by moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world.
From Wilde's essay The Critic as an Artist, this is giving the idea that a dreamer, any visionary or leader in their field, is working on a different path to everyone else. The moonlight is a metaphor for it being a bit of a strange one perhaps, and for doing this there is a punishment, not a reward. That punishment is both being isolated, maybe rejected, the idea that society can reject those who buck the norm or push the envelope, and seeing the new truth, the dawn, the realisation, the discovery that they make before everyone else, knowing that there's no one who can actually appreciate it with them at that point. Sounds a little bit like how Moira might see her own situation with her research and striving for discovery in her scientific field. Fits in very well with her backstory.
We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars.
Now, this is from Oscar Wilde's play Lady Windermere's Fan. In that play, it's used by a lord to describe the distance he feels between the lady of his affections and himself. She's rejected him when he says this. He feels her as being almost unreachable, untouchable, but still like the stars to him. And this very nicely as well compares to how Moira might feel about her pursuit of knowledge too. The desire she has to pursue it, but she sees some discoveries perhaps as being just out of reach. Quite the poetic soul, our Moira. If you like this video, please hit that like button below, subscribe for more Overwatch lore, voice lines and news, and comment what you think of Moira and her lines. I've done these for all Overwatch heroes, so check that playlist if you want to see your favourite hero as well. Big thanks to my patrons on Patreon who, in these days of YouTube demonetization, a few of my videos have been hit recently, make these longer videos actually possible for me to make. If you'd like to support the channel from $1, €1, £1 or similar a month, do check out my Patreon page, there's some sweet rewards there as well. Cheers for tuning in, I've been Hammeh, take it easy.